Once the sound of opportunity was not a notification, but a thud. A heavy book landing on a doorstep. Ink paper weight. An object so thick it felt permanent, like gravity itself had endorsed it. For decades, businesses didn't exist unless they were printed inside it. Names, numbers, promises, stacked alphabetically, sold as certainty. If you wanted to be found, you paid for ink. If you wanted to survive, you bought space. And people believed in it. They trusted it. They planned their lives around it. But power is quiet when it's strongest. It hides inside habits. Inside systems that feel too old, too boring, too obvious to question. Because while the world was flipping pages, something else was happening. Silently, digitally, relentlessly. How does an empire that once controlled attention, money, and visibility simply vanish? The Yellow Pages was not just a book. It was an economic gatekeeper. At its peak, it sat at the intersection of commerce and attention, deciding which businesses were visible and which were invisible. In cities across North America, Europe, and parts of Asia, this thick directory shaped how money moved locally. Plumbers, lawyers, restaurants, taxi companies, entire livelihoods depended on a few square inches of yellow paper. By the late 20th century, the Yellow Pages industry was generating tens of billions of dollars annually. In the United States alone, directory advertising revenue peaked at over $17 billion in the early 2000s. Globally, the number was far higher. Margins were extraordinary. Printing costs were fixed. Distribution was guaranteed. And advertisers renewed year after year, not because they loved it, but because they feared not being there. This was a monopoly disguised as a utility. A toll booth on visibility. Phone companies owned the directories. Regulators protected them. Small businesses funded them. Consumers trusted them. It was a system so embedded in daily life that it felt eternal. But beneath the familiar layout, bold headings, boxed ads, carefully ranked listings, was a deeper truth. The Yellow Pages did not sell information. It sold positions. And position in any economy is power. Yet history is unforgiving to systems that mistake dominance for permanence. The real story of the Yellow Pages isn't about paper or phones. It's about how control over attention is built, and how quickly it can slip away when technology rewrites the rules. To understand that collapse, we have to go back, long before the yellow paper, before advertising empires, to the moment when visibility first became something you could buy. The Yellow Pages began quietly, almost accidentally, like many systems that later grew immense. In the late 19th century, the telephone itself was the revolution. Cities were expanding, businesses were multiplying, and suddenly connection had a cost: confusion. Early phone subscribers needed a way to find one another. The solution was simple: lists of names and numbers, printed and distributed by telephone companies. At first, they were neutral, informational, almost civic. Then came a subtle shift. As commerce intensified, businesses began asking for more than inclusion. They wanted attention, bigger fonts, better placement, borders, logos. What started as a directory slowly became a marketplace of visibility. In 1886, the first known classified business directory printed on yellow paper appeared in Wyoming. The color was incidental, but the model was not. The economic logic was elegant. The phone company already controlled distribution. Every household received the book. Every business needed to be found. Scarcity did the rest. Only one directory, limited space, alphabetical order that could be bent if you paid. This was not advertising in the modern sense. It was infrastructure monetization. The Yellow Pages became an invisible architecture, quietly converting access into revenue. By the mid-20th century, this model hardened into doctrine. Exclusive rights were granted. Regulations protected incumbents. The directories grew thicker, heavier, and more expensive. Sales teams were trained not to sell ads, but fear. What happens if you're not listed? What happens if your competitor is bigger than you on the page? And businesses complied, year after year, recession or boom, because the cost of absence felt greater than the price of inclusion. The foundations were set, a seed planted in certainty. And like all systems built on habit rather than adaptability, it would one day face a force that did not ask permission to exist. That force was speed, and it was coming faster than anyone inside the system was prepared for. The first cracks didn't arrive with noise. They arrived with convenience. In the 1990s, the internet crept into offices and homes like a quiet assistant, useful but underestimated. Early search engines were crude, slow, inaccurate. Inside Yellow Pages boardrooms, they were dismissed as novelties. After all, the directory still arrived on every doorstep. Phones still rang. Revenue still climbed. By 2000, the Yellow Pages industry was at its absolute peak. In the US, revenues exceeded $17 billion annually. EBITDA margins regularly surpassed 40%, numbers most businesses could only dream of. Private equity noticed. What followed was not innovation, but extraction. Directories were carved out of telecom companies and loaded with debt. Companies like YP Holdings, Dex Media, and Yellow Pages Limited were aggressively leveraged in buyouts throughout the early 2000s. The assumption was simple. The cash flows were stable, predictable, permanent. Then behavior changed. Google didn't sell space in a book. It sold intent in real time. Search results updated instantly. Reviews appeared. Maps replaced memory. By 2006, Google controlled more than 60% of online search in the US. Small businesses began experimenting, tentatively at first, with online listings that cost less and reached further. The Yellow Pages responded, but too late and too cautiously. Digital versions were launched, but they mimicked paper logic in a digital world. Static listings, long contracts, high prices. They tried to protect margins instead of relevance. Then came the collapse. Between 2007 and 2012, print advertising revenue fell by more than 50%. Usage plummeted. Younger consumers never opened the book at all. And the debt, once justified by predictable cash, became a trap. Dex Media filed for bankruptcy. Supermedia followed. Yellow Pages Limited lost over 90% of its market value. This was not disruption. It was displacement. The power had shifted, not from one company to another, but from physical control to digital fluidity, from scarcity to abundance, from selling space to selling data. The book that once defined local commerce became a symbol of inertia. And inertia in a fast system is fatal. The true genius of the Yellow Pages was never the book itself. It was the system wrapped around it. At its core was a perfectly engineered profit machine, built on three invisible levers. First, forced distribution. Directories weren't optional. They arrived whether you wanted them or not. This guaranteed attention, something advertisers would later spend billions trying to recapture online. Second, manufactured scarcity. There was only one official directory, one alphabet, one front page. Visibility was finite and fear did the selling. Businesses weren't buying ads, they were buying insurance against obscurity. Third, behavioral lock-in. Sales contracts were long, prices escalated annually, and once a business saw a single call attributed to the book, cancellation felt reckless. This wasn't proof of effectiveness, it was psychological anchoring. The margins were staggering. After printing and distribution, every additional ad was nearly pure profit. Some directories achieved profit margins higher than oil companies or pharmaceutical giants. But this machine had a flaw. It relied on static behavior. Google didn't need scarcity. Facebook didn't need paper. Yelp didn't need contracts. They replaced certainty with feedback, clicks, reviews, analytics. Suddenly, businesses could see performance, and once performance becomes visible, legacy pricing collapses. The Yellow Pages didn't lose because it was inefficient. It lost because its invisibility became visible. The hidden engine of profit, once so elegant, could not survive transparency, and when the curtain lifted, the spell was broken. Every economic system leaves a residue, not on balance sheets, but on people. For decades, the Yellow Pages shaped how small businesses understood success. A bigger ad meant legitimacy. Bold text meant authority. Being listed first meant survival. Entire identities were built around those pages. Family businesses planned budgets around renewal calls. Immigrants built livelihoods off a single-boxed listing. Tradespeople measured growth not in profit, but in column inches. Every paycheck carried history. Every customer call echoed a decision made in a sales meeting years earlier. Then the calls stopped. As the directories thinned, so did certainty. Some businesses adapted quickly, learning search engines and social platforms. Others didn't. Older owners struggled with abstraction, keywords instead of paper, algorithms instead of alphabet. The fall wasn't just financial, it was cultural. Consumers changed too. Trust migrated. Authority no longer came from print but from crowds, from ratings, from comments by strangers. A quiet shift in belief. The system no longer knows best. And yet, there were no villains here. The Yellow Pages didn't exploit people maliciously. Small businesses weren't foolish. Consumers weren't disloyal. They were participants in a system that worked until it didn't. This is the uncomfortable truth of wealth and power. Success is rarely personal. It is structural. And when structures change, identities are forced to change with them. The Yellow Pages didn't just disappear. It took a way of thinking with it. The Yellow Pages began as a guide. It became a gatekeeper. And it ended as a relic. Its rise was not driven by greed, but by design. Its fall was not caused by failure, but by rigidity. From ink to algorithms, from scarcity to abundance, the story of the Yellow Pages is a reminder that power lives wherever attention is controlled, and vanishes the moment that control becomes optional. The book didn't burn overnight. It faded, page by page, habit by habit. And the question it leaves us with isn't about directories or technology. It's about us. Which systems do we still trust simply because they've always been there? Which monopolies feel invisible because they arrive quietly, without asking? If you enjoyed this exploration into the unseen forces behind everyday systems, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if it sparked a new perspective. Subscribe for more deep dives into the architectures of money and power, and share this story with someone who still remembers the weight of that book. Because the next empire won't announce itself with paper, and the next collapse is already being built.